Worldwide parent coach and conscious educator Sue DeCaro is on a mission to revitalize the joy in parenting. Welcome to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids, a podcast designed to help parents all over the world create deeper connections with themselves and their children while overcoming life's daily parenting challenges. Listen in if you want to bring more laughter, love, and enjoyment to your home life.
Welcome to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids, a place for all things parenting. I am your host, Sue DeCaro. Today's episode will offer you ways to find calm in times of chaos. Join me in offering a warm welcome to my special guest and friend, Wendy Silvers. Wendy is a sought-after spiritual midwife, minister, trauma-informed parenting coach, author, and sacred activist. For the past 18 years, her focus has been on helping moms find joy, purpose, and freedom while raising kids consciously. She believes that heart-centered, mission-driven moms embracing their immense value as confident, healthy women raise healthy, thriving children. Wendy co-authored the international best-selling book, Balance for Busy Moms, blogs for online sites, and has been a contributing blogger to Huffington Post. Wendy is an Agape licensed minister and Agape spiritual counselor, and her next book will be published in 2021. Wendy, welcome. I am thrilled that you have joined me for this incredible episode. So, Wendy, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I'm excited that you're here.
I'm just excited to be with you, Sue. I've heard so many wonderful things about you, and so it's really a joy. It's a blessing.
Thank you. Well, let's dive in and talk about chaos, because as you and I both know, in the work that we do in the world, it's something that people are experiencing all over the world. And so share with us and our listeners the things that you hear most from parents in terms of what they find in their day-to-day lives. What are you hearing?
Yeah, great question. So predominantly everything is motivated by fear. There's uncertainty, there's impatience, there's a desire to have concrete information. There's been an upheaval. Some parents are able to just flow with it, and then there's a lot of anxiety and really concern about what are the kids' futures and how do I keep them safe.
Yeah, and it's interesting because fear manifests itself in so many different ways in our body, in our mindset, in our day-to-day activities. And also, I think most importantly, or equally important, is how it manifests itself in our children. And so here we are, all these, busy people doing what we do in this world, holding on to the fear or, trying to move through the fear. And that energy that what's coming through us is also creating perhaps fear in our children too, at very young ages, all the way up. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And fear is really interesting because it can manifest visibly and invisibly. So one of the things that I'm sure you tell your parents too is that how important it is to be honest about what's going on. So to do that narrating. So, wow, mommy has a lot of feelings in her body right now, and I'm feeling really, I guess you could call it anxious. I feel this in my belly, and I feel a little heaviness in my heart. And so it doesn't have anything to do with you. Mommy or daddy is going to take care of this. So being able to identify it like the elephant in the room, rather, because kids are they're so intuitive and they're so kinesthetic. So it's that you want to make sure that you're really acknowledging their reality rather than denying it. So, and also to show them how to process it, how to identify it, how to accept it, and how to work through it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And this is where emotional intelligence is also derived. So we're certainly in a time where we can engage more and more in creating the awareness and the naming and the moving through emotions. And I think you mentioned uncertainty. And the interesting thing about uncertainty is that, yes, it feels like we live in a world of uncertainty right now that's bigger than ever. But we've never been certain of anything. We've only been certain of this moment. And I really truly believe in this. We don't know what tomorrow will look like. We don't know what next week, next year, or 5 years from now. We can plan and think we do. And we may have a little more uncertainty now because of the pandemic. But I think, we've always lived in uncertain times. It just now people are seeing uncertainty in such a bigger way. Mm-hmm. And for our children, so just an interesting little story here. My daughter, who has a 5-year-old, said to me, her name is Maya. Maya would love to hug you, and it's so unfair to her that she is not able to do that. And, when I think about that and had this conversation with my daughter, I thought, unfair is a strong word. And it is what it is. And in her little 5-year-old world, this is what's going on. And she's not thinking twice about it unless we give her big reasons to think how unfair this is, that you can't hug me right now, as opposed to, look at us, social distancing, because that's the norm right now. And, I know you talk a lot about making lemonade out of lemons. And I guess I see this kind of up that alley, or down that alley, whichever way you want to look at it. But this is how it is. And I think the language plays a big role in creating, again, fear, chaos, and uncertainty, internally and externally.
Well, you spoke on so many points. First of all, emotional literacy. I believe parents are the emotional coaches. So I think it's like the fine print is to help your child have emotional literacy. You as the parent must learn how to be an emotional coach, which means tapping into your own feelings and being able to identify them and being able to accept them, heal them, and then thereby being able to hold. I always talk about a container, right? A parent, our parents are the stewards of their children's bodies, minds, and spirits. They don't own them, as we all know, right? The Khalil Gibran poem. But just in life, we get to see these beautiful little beings that come to us or through us have very clear curriculums. So we get to be their stewards. And that involves being an emotional coach and teaching emotional literacy. And I do believe that what we pass on to our children, they accept. And so it's verbally and non-verbally. So I also believe, I think it's a little risky to say this is the new normal. I feel like the honest thing to say to our kids is, this is new. This is something really new, and we're all adjusting. And I think developmentally, there's a period of time where kids always go through this whole idea of, this is unfair. That's not fair. They got more than me, or they got picked. And again, it goes back to just like, wow, I hear you. Gosh, that feels unfair. And being mindful what we are putting in our children's mouths and minds.
Right. It's like chaos is no different from anything else. Chaos, uncertainty, fear. These times are no different than other times in the sense that we are the models, right? We're the models for our kids.
Yes, for sure. We get to model, but I think about, we've talked about, I really do a lot of work with healing trauma, right? Because trauma comes from yes, we live in uncertainty, and part of maturity is being able to navigate uncertainty. When a child comes into the world, my personal belief, take what you want, leave what the rest, is that it's a sacred contract between parents and child. So, and each child comes into the world with their own soul signature or their soul curriculum. And again, we get to be their stewards. So the thing about trauma is, as we know from science, the environment of the mother when a child is in utero impacts a child invisibly, or in some terrible cases, visibly, if the mom's like a crack addict or some other stuff like that. So I believe that when their children come into our spheres and we hold this space for them, that it's really important to acknowledge that these are times that are unprecedented. And we wouldn't use that word with a little child. But I think about, if you go back to like some of the wars, or you go back to kids who grew up in the Depression, or in London, where the war was. And I think that kids, again, going back to how kinesthetic they are, they feel this. So it behooves us to acknowledge that we're going to do everything in our power to keep our children safe, to keep you safe. And mommy doesn't, I think the most honest answer sometimes is, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Because I think these are unprecedented times. And I think it kind of ratchets up that uncertainty a couple notches, only because where do you go for real information? There's so much in our information overload. Like, who is speaking the truth? Like, what is really happening here? And what is next? And do you follow? Like, I feel like it's so important to acknowledge that, yes, there's no guarantees in life. Not that you could tell a 5-year-old, well, there's no guarantees. But like if you have a child we both work with, birth through 7, but I have a teenager, and I've worked with a lot of teenagers, and they're really savvy because of social media. So to deny what's there is unfair, or doesn't really honor them, or to be alarmist is also not a good practice either. So it's that balance of being fully authentic in an age-appropriate way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's so well said, because authenticity is one of the keys in connection, right? To be honest and authentic with our children. And, like you said, and we both said, they feel it anyway. So if you don't bring something to the forefront in a conversation, in a way in which, you're actually conversing with, the child at whatever age they are, in their language and their ability to understand, as much as they can, then they're just taking in the energy that they feel and making their own 2-year-old, 5-year-old, whatever it is, determinations about what that looks like. And, we want to keep our kids in a bubble, and we want to keep them safe.
Yeah.
And yet we can't, right? We can't live in, a container and never move. And so it's really navigating, and this is something I talk a lot about with parents I work with, it's really navigating what feels right for you in this time that we're in, with the knowledge and understanding that you have. So you're taking in bits and pieces, perhaps from sources that you believe in and you value. Because again, as we've said, these are unprecedented times. We can't look back and say, well, when this happened, people did this, and that's how they moved through it successfully. So we're kind of, all flying by the seat of our pants with the information that we have, hoping for the best outcome, every day in every way. And so, I think that it's super important to look at your values as a parent and how you're navigating those values, and then bringing them to your family. But don't try to bring them to the family if you don't have a clear picture of what that looks like for you.
And if it's not embodied, because then you become that old school parent that says, don't do as I do, do as I say. And so then therein your child feels the incongruity of that and is like, wait, she's saying this, but she's doing that. Like, this is so confusing.
For sure. So that's one very helpful hint, I think, for parents, is embody your own values before you bring them to your family.
Absolutely.
And you talked about breathing, as well. Yes. Tell us a little bit about how breathing can be a beautiful, helpful technique in terms of creating a little less chaos and a little more peace.
Yes, that prana, that life force. So we enter the world on a breath, and after long, healthy lives, we exit on a breath. And it's like the inhale and the exhale, and then life is in between that. And so thank goodness we live in a time where we're doing a lot of like sound baths, and that's based on a lot of breathing. So breathing calms the amygdala in trauma work, which I do a lot of. Besides just acknowledging what's in front of what's happening, the breath and settling into a breath allows the brain to become regulated, because what happens is when there's a trauma response, the brain gets dysregulated. As you know, I'm speaking to the choir, but for the parents that are listening to this, when that cortisol gets pumping and the amygdala is on, the reptilian brain and the amygdala are in full alarm, the neocortex, the reasoning part of the brain, is not online, right? It's like your internet is just like not connecting. So breathing allows that. It's a technology of just when you are feeling yourself starting to go from, let's say, green to yellow to red, you just pause. And literally, in the beginning, for parents that haven't done a lot of breath work or breathing, I invite them to put like their left hand on their heart and their right hand, right, their thumbs on their navel. And I invite them to imagine breathing like they're breathing into a balloon, and their belly is the inside of the balloon, because that allows the brain to calm and it allows them to bring a focus.
Beautiful.
And take 5 breaths. If you need to take 10, take 10. But deep inhalations, and making sure that you're breathing out on the exhalation, because when you really do so I'll give you an example. So I'll breathe in through my nose. And at the top of the breath, at the apex, I sip in a little more air and I hold it. Let's say for a count of 5 for this. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And then I exhale with a pressing my navel against my spine. What happens is when someone breathes like that, it allows for a very natural and organic breath to enter the body. So when you breathe like that, your pulse rate diminishes, your heart starts to beat regularly, your brain comes online. So I believe that breathing is great. And if anybody has opportunities to do sound baths, I highly recommend them. And even with the kids, they love singing bowls. The little ones love singing bowls. So if you can go to a space or on YouTube or get your own singing bowls and play with them, it will allow you to not only connect with your kids, but connect with the higher functioning of your mind and your spirit.
I love what you shared about the breath, and thank you for giving that example. I think one of the beautiful things about our breath is it's always with us. Like you said, the internet goes offline, you have no electricity, you're driving in your car and you suddenly feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
It is with you. It's a tool that you don't have to reach for, find, negotiate with. It's there.
I love that.
It's also there for our children. And so many parents I work with, you want to know how to teach their kids. And like, don't sit your kids down and say, now we're going to breathe, because most of them are not going to be interested. And so, the best thing that we can do for our children is to just model what we are doing for ourselves by being in open space, to be present, to be somewhere where they are and can see us, and open to a conversation. If they say, what are you doing? To not, take it personally and explain. We're not doing it because we want you to do it. We're doing it because it soothes us. And when you explain it that way and you talk about how it makes you feel, they might ask to join you. And that's the beautiful gift. It's just modeling it can entice a child, because you're not inviting them. When you invite them, it's like, no thanks,
I know.
Green beans, no. But if you're not there, they might eat the green beans. So
that's such a great point. Thank you. Yes, that's such a great point. You know what I think of when I hear you say about that modeling? I think about creating games with your children, because they love that, like songs to brush your teeth or do various things, but also lions, tigers, bears. Like if you do that breathing and you know how little children around the age of, I want to say 6 or 7, they always want to do like dogs or babies or something. They want to be. So if you do the breathing, thank you, Sue. That's really such a great, a reminder. If you do get your body in a position of like an animal, like a bear, lion, tiger, and you breathe, then it allows that breath to come into their body without them actually like, okay, we're going to sit down, like you
Right.
said, because, the normal response is, you want to breathe? No, thanks. You want to meditate? No, thanks.
Want green beans? No, thanks.
Right. How about spinach? No, thanks.
But if we get on the floor, so, I'm just thinking as you're talking about the lions, tigers, and bears, if we get on the floor, which I love to do, I mean, I love adults, but I'd much rather be on the floor with the kids. I guess that's the big kid in me. So,
Yeah.
if we get on the floor and we're, pretending to be a lion or tiger or bear or what have you, cat, whatever animal speaks to us, and utilizing that as a breath technique,
Yes.
it's even more enticing for children to say, what is going on over there? Are you, are you an animal now? And want to take part. And, it's the chaos is for all of us. I mean, the chaos is here for all of us, in my opinion, to grow. Every day I look at what's in front of me with the pandemic, with the climate, I'm not going to go into, the political arena, but with the climate that we're in, in every way, shape, and form that we're living in this time, to look at what is this here for me? What is this thought here for me to learn? What is this feeling here for me to learn? What is the chaos today here for me to learn? Why has this person just, said what they said? And why is that here for me to learn? That's real. But anyway, it's really about bringing attention to what is and finding these beautiful ways, like we've discussed, to help ourselves through, because we can't change, the bigger picture. We can only change the picture that we live in each and every day, to the degree that we can change it, right? It's a mental and behavioral opportunity to bring a little more comfort to the chaos.
I love what you said. And what better contribution to society than parenting? Parenting is an act of sacred activism, because we are growing citizens of the world. So I love what you're saying. And one of the things I think that is often misunderstood about conscious, intentional, heart-centered parenting is that it's not. It's really about connection. So when I think about chaos, I think it's the bridge from chaos to connection that we're going over, because we have this opportunity to connect with our kids from a place of empathy and compassion and honoring their native intelligence. I mean, these kids come in and they're brilliant. And so, it's the adults that think that we have to teach them how to think, and they don't. So I love what you're about, because it's that opportunity to really, like Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see. So we get to be the parents that in some cases we wished we had. And we get to, I think I always joke, it's not purchase, but like, remember when you went to a department store and they would have a promotion, like gift with purchase? So I think the gift with parenting is the opportunity, should you take it, to really heal those places within that didn't get what they need. But it's like wax over here, shine over there. So it's like you're giving these gifts to your children, but you're also receiving the gifts.
For sure. Sure. And not only with the children, but in all relationships.
Yes.
We give and we receive so much and learn from all that we experience.
Oh yeah.
So
some of the most challenging relationships hold the greatest gifts. But when you're in it, you're like,
right.
Then the breathing, then the slowing down, then okay, so what is this here to teach me? How may I best serve? And how may I heal? How may I take care of my tender heart?
For sure.
And their tender hearts.
And their tender hearts. Absolutely. I was meeting with a parent yesterday who told me about how every time her child has a meltdown, this is a very conscious parent, she not celebrates it, but she comes to it with excitement oh,
Yeah.
this is an opportunity. And she says this is an opportunity to herself when the child is having a meltdown.
Yeah.
And so when we look at the world around us as this is an opportunity, we can stay stagnant and stay in our ways and deal with, the chaos that ensues, the world in the same way we always come to chaos, or, which can be very stressful, or we can come to chaos with a new and improved opportunity for growth and for connection and for awareness.
Yeah.
And that's
well,
incredible.
In the Chinese symbology, the symbol for crisis and opportunity are almost identical.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, so it's I think of it when, in all honesty, when my brain is regulated, because a dysregulated brain trying to help a dysregulated brain is like Einstein's, you can't solve a problem at the level of the consciousness that created the problem. So I have to calm my amygdala. But I think that it's an invitation, right? It's an invitation. And what a wonderful parent that you're working with that has that awareness to look at it, because, when little ones are working out their feelings, they're doing hard work. So to be able to be present is a word I use a lot in my work, to be present with the child, to be alongside of them and let them know, I'm here, baby. I'm not going anywhere. I see you. I hear you. You're really, you are really having your feelings. That is the most extraordinary gift you can give a child, to learn how to process their feelings.
Right. That's how they thrive.
Yes.
They have to thrive through it, not have us fix it or change it or squash it or, remove it, but allow it and engage. Right. Allow it and engage with it with presence. Beautiful.
Wonderful work you're doing, Sue.
Thank you. You as well, Wendy. And it's such a joy to share this time with you. I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little bit more about where they can find you. So as they're listening, I'm sure they're intrigued to learn more about your work and how they can connect.
Well, first, thank you so much for this rich dialogue. I really am grateful to you for it. Thank you. So I am Wendy Silvers, and it's Silvers. So you can go to my website, Wendy Silvers, Silvers.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on at Mama Wendy Silvers. And you can go to Instagram, and that is at Wendy Silvers. And you can also email hello@wendysilvers.com.
Oh, love it. Well, that's easy. I love the hello. So simple. Thank you so much, Wendy. And thank you for all the rich discussion that you've brought to the table today for all our listeners. I'm sure it will help everyone in times of chaos that we might experience to move forward in a different way.
My pleasure. Anything to support the parents and the children in thriving. Yes, sure. Thank you.
And thank you to all the listeners for joining us. And remember, every moment is a new moment for conscious connections.
Thanks for listening to Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.